Hello, heyo, and welcome to OmniDog's Vault. I am OmniDog. It's the Dog and Bone Show. OmniDog and T-Bone. My co-host, T-Bone. Where is T-Bone?
Good morning, San Francisco! Shazam! I'm here.
T-Bone in rare form this morning.
How are you, Jess? How are you?
I am fine. I'm mighty fine. And because I disappointed you so in the pre-chat, let's have everybody out there who knows what the heck your t-shirt means soak it in. And
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Jess. You know, us sidekicks, we get no love. We get no admiration. We just get shoved to the side. It's in the name. Today's episode brought to you by Prague, Czech Republic. Prague, Czech Republic. Book your vacation destination today.
We're actually going to Croatia in the fall.
Ooh.
Which I think is awesome. Near the Czech Republic. Didn't it all used to be like one communist country called Czechoslovakia, Slovakia or something?
I'm 99% sure that's historically accurate. I don't have 100% of the facts, but I can tell you that they're in, and you're right.
Thank you. So, T-Bone, what are you drinking? Is that some type of Dr. Pepper or just?
This is a Spider-Man flavored Diet Cherry Dr. Pepper.
Diet Cherry Dr. Pepper.
And you can taste the webs. You can taste the webs.
Did you get me a donut?
You know what? I didn't even get myself a donut.
Oh, you did?
How sad is that?
Okay.
My dog took a little bit too long doing her business, unlike this dog who always gets it done in the right amount of time.
That's right. I know it's important. And what's important is to talk about comic books. Yep. Comic books. We're going to talk today about Infamous Iron Man Volume 1 and 2. And you'll notice a trend here. We're talking about older books, not real old books, but we're talking about, let's see, when was this done? Was this done in 2016 also? 2017. Okay, and these are books that I have had just lying around and then I'm like, I gotta get to that. And Tyler has Marvel Unlimited because that's all that he's got now. He sold his soul and all his earthly possessions so that he could have Jenny, his wife. That's what he had to do. His soul, and all he's got left is Marvel Unlimited. So that's the deal. It has to be in my house, and he has to be able to access it on Marvel Unlimited. Although we should switch to DC at some point. I'm sure we have some interesting DC books.
Are there interesting DC books?
Well, there's a lot of interesting Rebirth books.
That's true. Absolutely.
Do you own any Rebirth books?
I do. I own all of them thanks to DC Universe.
Oh, okay. You have that app.
The subscription, yes.
Ah, all right. Well, then there we go. In the settlement for his soul, he also got DC Universe.
Yeah, the old deal I made with Mephisto called One More Book. And I sold my soul to get a relationship, and I was allowed to keep one book, and that one book I chose was an online subscription to every book. It's like wishing for more wishes. They say you can't do it, but you can. You actually can.
Smart. That's the tax guy in you.
Shazam!
Shazam. So okay, good. So it'll be DC and Marvel then that we can review because you have access to everything. And I have a ton of Rebirth that I haven't read, so that'll be perfect. Infamous Iron Man. The story is that due to, I don't know, what was it? Secret Wars? Or
yeah, Secret Wars.
Yeah,
Secret Wars. You know, we had God King Doom.
Right.
Where Doom was god of everything. It did not end well.
Right.
But at the end of that, basically, the multiverse gets mostly restored in the way that it was left. But one of the things that happens at the end is Doom's face gets fixed.
Right. And what happens to Tony Stark?
Tony Stark, in a beloved event by fans everywhere, Civil War II. I mean, people just really like that event. I mean,
that's why I don't know about it, because
the praise.
Drunken Riley told me to not read it.
Well, Drunken Riley was 100% correct, because it was terrible. I really did not enjoy that. But without getting in any spoilers, we pick up and Tony Stark is dead at this point in the MCU. MCU? In the MU. 616.
Okay.
Yes. And so there's a vacancy left for an Iron Man, not to be filled by Riri Williams, apparently.
Because she's going to be Ironheart.
That's right. So we pick up there with Dr. Doom reflecting on his life, his godhood, and his legacy, and trying to decide what he wants to do next.
Well said. Wow.
That's why they pay me the big bucks to be your sidekick. I'm the Guillermo of this show.
Guillermo. So he's reflecting and he decides he doesn't like what he sees. He decides that he's going to try to be a better guy and use his powers for good. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he jumps right in. He had a working relationship with Stark. They were working on something before Civil War II. And he basically says, you know what? Why not? I'll just take Stark's armor and we'll just roll with it.
Right.
He says he's borrowing it and keeping his legacy going for him. But really, at the end of the day, I think he just wanted some cooler looking armor than what he had. Though I'm a big fan of the classic Doom look. Absolutely.
Yeah. And this is by Bendis with art by Maleev, his partner on, what was that, Daredevil that they worked on?
Daredevil.
Yeah, that's where they really both made a big name for themselves. Well, I think, I don't know which came first for Bendis, Daredevil or Ultimate Spider-Man, but Maleev and Bendis are a famous team. And so in this scene, Doom is trying to make himself a better person, but not everybody's gotten the memo, and the Thing has got it in for him and is clobbering everything in sight, trying to get Doom. And he doesn't stop ever, and Doom keeps escaping, and the Thing keeps following him, trying to capture him, bring him in. S.H.I.E.L.D. keeps trying to bring him in. And he has a bit of an odd relationship with this woman, Amara, that does Alzheimer's research, that he sets up her research in Cambridge, England. And I'm not sure where, did they have a previous relationship? Are you aware of?
I believe it implied that they had worked together with Tony Stark.
Okay.
When Doom was working with Stark prior to the events of Civil War II. Somebody in the comments could correct me on that, because I haven't actually read that part of the story. But that was the impression that I was left under. And they have an interesting relationship, because there's some romantic undertones, a little bit of tension there, but also she does not like the havoc that he is bringing on her life. Trouble seems to follow him, and things get destroyed whenever he's around. So let's talk about the artwork for a second.
Okay, let me highlight the box that has the dog in it.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm the one with the artwork. Yeah, I'm a fan.
Okay, you like the artwork. Good.
I'm a fan of Alex Maleev. Yeah. How about you? You're not?
Well, I really enjoyed his art on Daredevil.
Okay.
And I had an interesting relationship with both the art and the story in this book, which we can get to the story in a little bit. But
sure.
The art, I felt like at times worked really well. Particularly the magic battles and the magic scenes I thought were
Oh yeah.
fantastically done. Not only was the line work good, but the inking again was just stellar. The colors, especially on those magic battles, as contrasted when you read the book, it's got almost a they've got like a real desaturated feel in a lot of the book, a lot of grays, a lot of blues, which is meant to, I believe, keep it more down to earth and realistic looking. But then when they get in these magic battles, the colors just fly off the page. And I absolutely love that. And I love the inking choices and the art with Doom when he's got his hood on and you see like it's mostly shadow, but then the suit lights up. The blasters from the suit I thought were really well done. So in that aspect, I really enjoyed it. But in some of the dialogue scenes and in some of the more mundane scenes, I don't know. Some of
Like
it,
right here.
yeah, like right. Some of that just didn't feel like it fit the tone of the book, and maybe it's because the last thing I read with this artist, I believe, was Daredevil.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just so used to that art style being represented with so heavily with the character of Daredevil.
Here's some magic
Maybe I find
battles.
the jar, but look how gorgeous that is. I mean,
Yeah.
bottom with Doom's mom who comes back in the story and becomes a side character / antagonist potentially for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And
evil Reed Richards.
Yes, yeah, and evil Reed Richards, who's not been seen since the events of Secret Wars, shows up, and there was just a whole lot of interesting story development that we can get when we kind of dive into the plot. But as far as the artwork goes, what was your favorite part of the artwork? What were the things you most enjoyed?
I think you're probably right. I think it was the very colorful magic battles and things like this right here that I'm showing on the screen. The part with his mom and evil Reed Richards, those tended to be very colorful. The battles tended to be very colorful. And you're right, the things like just regular chatting, office scenes tended to be very dull and gray. So yeah, anything that required color were my favorite parts. But something happened that this must have been Civil War, because it was jarring. And this is what happens when you don't. I generally don't follow events. I didn't follow Civil War II. You know, Drunk Riley came on and warned the world against it. And right in the middle of the book, in volume 1, all of a sudden Sharon Carter is commander of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Maria Hill isn't.
Yeah, that was a real...
What the hell?
That was a real confusing situation as well. I agree. They did not explain that, which is...
They didn't explain it at all. Do you know anything about that?
It lends to the attachment you have with the main character, Dr. Doom, because he's also like, okay, what? Like, he doesn't understand. We don't understand.
Yeah.
In a way, it lets us connect to the character more. But I have no clue what happened. It starts off with Maria Hill is saved by Doom,
right,
from Diablo, and that's like a really intense scene when Doom comes in and saves her from being tortured and all that. And they just have like an interesting relationship. And then suddenly she's like, nope, Maria Hill ain't here anymore. I'm in charge now. And you're like, what?
Yeah, that's how he establishes his decision to be on the side of angels and everything, by saving Maria Hill. And she gives him a bit of a long leash throughout her part as director of S.H.I.E.L.D. And due to the fact that she has her life saved by Dr. Doom. And then, I mean, couldn't there have been a little editor's note or something that said, as seen in World Civil War, or as seen in Sharon Carter, field agent of Mars, or whatever, some kind of something? I mean, there should have been an explanation for that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
as usual with Marvel books, I just go, oh, okay. And
You just accept it and move on. And
yeah, I did because I didn't have much choice. But I thought it was I thought it was pretty weird, and that's not. I didn't think it was a good thing. I didn't think it was a good thing at all that was just randomly thrown in there.
so let's just dive on full into the story then.
Okay.
And be forewarned, full spoilers ahead. I'm sure you guys already got that from the last T-Bone spoils everything on the Dog and Bone Show.
The Dog and Bone Show brings you the spoilers, brought to you by Dr. Pepper and whatever those little candies are that you always eat. What are those? Jujubes or something?
Gummy bears?
Oh, are they gummy bears? Yeah, you had something last time.
I live for gummy bears.
Oh, all right. Well, good. That's great.
So the story starts off, Maria Hill is saved. I thought that was good. I thought the overall arc, because it was, you pointed this out when we were talking on the phone about reading this book, that it was 12 issues, and they kind of seemed to know what they wanted to do for those 12 issues. It wasn't like, oh, issue 6, it's canceled.
Right.
Like, it was a 12-issue run. I was kind of sad to see it end at the end, which, for the record, for those who don't know, I really don't like Bendis. Like, I really dislike him as a writer.
Oh, I don't know that I ever knew that.
Okay, I really dislike Bendis. I really do not like him as a writer.
Oh, you're such a good guy. You didn't even speak up when I chose this book.
It's okay, because I was interested in this. I'm very interested in the story also. Like, I like the idea, just in general, of bad guys trying to be good. I think it's an interesting story.
Okay.
And it's certainly different. We'll get to some of the comparisons. I got a lot of comparisons to make as we get on in. But the story itself, I thought, flowed pretty well. What about you? What do you think of the flow and like the twist at the end and all that?
Yeah, I agree. I thought it flowed really well. I thought it actually did have a beginning, middle, and end, which he is famous for not having endings. I thought it did have a really good. It did have a solid ending, and it gave you an option to either end at the end of this, or go on to Invincible Iron Man 593, which I downloaded on Comixology. Invincible Iron Man, which was called I can't remember now, 593 through. I just got it on my iPad, and because I wanted to see what the rest of the Doctor Doom story was, and it was really more the return of, I think it's called The Return of Tony Stark. It was more the return of Tony Stark, and you didn't really get to see much of Doctor Doom in The Return of Tony Stark. Invincible Iron Man 593 through 600. I think it's just a skinny trade paperback. It was, as far as that particular book goes, this is the best. I can't get to the front because I struggle with Comixology all the time. I'm sure there's an easy way for me to get to the front, and some viewer will tell me how to do it. But my point is that you can read the two trades of infamous Iron Man and be happy, or you can go ahead and see exactly how it all wraps up with Invincible Iron Man 593 through 600, and that brings back Tony Stark, and Doctor Doom just sort of toddles off, and Riri, what's her name?
Williams.
Riri Williams is more in that book too. Yeah, I will give points to Bendis for actually having an ending and having a book that flowed.
Yeah.
And oh, here's some good magic battle stuff right here.
Yeah.
Here's some
Ooh, that
really
is
good magic
gorgeous.
battle
I
stuff.
loved the art from the last Magic Battle. The standout, that was probably actually the standout art-wise for me. But
Yeah.
let's just talk about the elephant in the room.
Okay.
The dialogue. There's so much. I
Yeah,
mean,
it
to
is
show the
wordy.
last page, or one of the pages of Mephisto talking. So again, we said spoiler alerts, but for those who haven't read it and are just interested in the story, I'll give a quick rundown of what happens while Jess is going to look for this page. But
Oh, what am
basically,
I showing?
the end where Mephisto is basically explaining his plan.
Oh, yeah, you
So
mean this one?
look at the dialogue, please, people. Why? Why, Bendis? Why? Why? I mean, okay. One, Mephisto is just acting kind of like a brat here. I mean, I've only read a few books of Mephisto in him, so I don't really know what his personality's like, but he's acting like just kind of like a, I don't know, like a punky, bratty demon dude. I don't know. But I'm not really familiar with his character. Maybe that's how he is, but the words, there's just so many.
Yeah,
And there were
there are a
so
lot.
many pages like that where I just looked at it and I just thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to read all of these words. There's so many words. And it's not just that there's a lot of words. I don't mind when there's a lot of words for a purpose, but so much of it feels like, as Dr. Doom would say, incessant prattle.
Yeah.
So many words. But again, going back to the story, for those who want a quick summary, basically Dr. Doom finds out that his mom is alive, which is a big deal because he, in previous comics, had gone back to hell, saved his mom's soul, and now she's suddenly back. And so she pops in the story. She's like super powerful in magic. She teaches him some magic. She messes with Ben Grimm. But the big mystery is, how is she alive? Where has she been this whole time? Because she claims to have been alive for a long time. And then she's in a steamy relationship with Reed Richards. And you're like, what? And so Reed Richards basically turns out to not be Reed Richards. He's been orchestrating this whole thing to screw with Doom because it's actually Mephisto, and it's not actually his mom. He created her to be a copy of her mom, but in the end, she acted so much like his mom that she ended up helping him too much and a little bit inhibiting Mephisto's plans, which all stemmed from the fact that Mephisto was just really ticked off that Dr. Doom was becoming a good person. And that's where I think the story kind of, okay, I guess. That's how I felt about it. Like, okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
like
see what you mean.
Mephisto, this
Yeah.
huge demon underworld power, is totally upset now because Dr. Doom, who he knew was going to eventually go to hell, and he's mad about the fact that Doom saved his mom's soul, like one person's soul one time a long time ago, that he is now going out of his way, pretending to be Reed Richards just to screw with Doom, to torture him and hopefully make him go back evil, or hopefully someone will kill him before he can right all the wrongs, because apparently that's how the afterlife works in the Marvel Universe. I'm not really sure. And I just thought, like, that was kind of a weak motivation for Mephisto. Like, really? I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but I thought that was a little bit silly.
Yeah. No, you know what? I agree with you now. I think that, now that you put it that way, it was kind of silly. Sometimes that's why this is good that we've got sort of a nerdy club of all of us that bounce ideas off each other, because otherwise I would just read comics in a vacuum. And
yeah, me too.
I would just set it down and go, oh, okay, that was a comic book, cool. And I wouldn't get somebody else's opinion. And that helps me see that, yeah, that is kind of silly that that he was angry about Doom being nice. This one guy in the whole entire universe, Mephisto, is all of a sudden upset that Dr. Doom is trying to be a nice guy. But otherwise, we wouldn't have the comic. So
yeah, and it was, it was a contrived plot, but it did lead to like some cool battles. Like there was a really cool, like the end fight with Stephen Strange and Doom, who have, I think, one of the most interesting relationships now in the modern Marvel comics after Secret Wars, and the fact that they're both like the top sorcerers in the realm, and Doom's somewhat jealous of him, but they have mutual respect for each other. I love seeing them together fighting against Mephisto. I thought the visuals were great, and I thought the idea was cool. The other idea that I just thought was a little bit, I felt like could have been done better, was Doom's motivation for becoming good. And there's a great panel in there in which Bendis recognizes a little bit of the absurdity of this. It's Amara, who is
the lady scientist.
The scientist, kind of love interest, a little bit respect and all that for her. But at one point, she basically points it out by saying, like, so wait, like Doom explains to her what happened in Secret Wars, and she says, wait a second, hold on. So what you're telling me is you were so bad and you ruled the world and you didn't make you feel fulfilled. So now you're just like going to try to be good because you didn't like when you were bad? That doesn't really make much sense, does it? And Doom was like, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it doesn't make much sense. And that's essentially the plot point that Doom gives for his motivation, is just like, you know what? I was really bad and it did not leave me as satisfied as I wanted to be.
Yeah.
We'll try to be really good. What I wish they had done as I was reading it, that I think would have been a more interesting and possibly in line with the character of Doom, would have been if Doom had said, look, I ruled the universe, but I never got the respect and admiration that I always wanted. That's what I really wanted. I've had power, I've had money, I've had fame, I've had infamy, but I never got the respect and the love that I wanted when I did it the way that I thought it had to be done. But now that I've done it that way, I realize the best way to save the world and rule the world is to do it the right way and to be a hero, and in that way get the love and admiration of the people. It still gives him a little bit of a selfish motive that Doom would I believe have.
Yeah.
But it's a selfish motive supported by actions that are good. And so even though he wants the admiration, praise, and to rule, he's doing the right thing. I think that would have been a more interesting and complex way to take it, as opposed to just him being like, well, I tried being really bad and that didn't work, so now I'll try being really good. And some of that was underlying in the book, but I wish I had seen more of that developed. I think that would have been really, really interesting.
Yeah, that's actually the motivation back in the mid-'80s for Mr. Mxyzptlk, Superman's imp from the fifth dimension that Alan Moore wrote.
Really?
Yeah, for whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow, he was, it turns out that the Alan Moore writes him as, thousands of years old, and he was just an imp who was out having fun for thousands of years, and then he decides to use his powers for evil because what the heck, he had never done that. And that's when he ends up killing Superman and stuff, and that's what happens to the Man of Tomorrow. That's how they wipe the slate clean for for John Byrne's run, or whatever they wipe the slate clean for the new Superman. But yeah, that's basically it.
That's super interesting.
I'm going to try doing this way because I hadn't been that way before. That's Mr. Mxyzptlk's way of thinking, is what you're saying Dr. Doom's way of thinking is. Yeah. I haven't tried it that way before, so let's try it.
Let's just see what happens. And in a lot of ways, and it's so hard for me not to compare this to Superior Spider-Man. Have you read Superior Spider-Man?
I have not.
Okay, so I loved Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah, I've heard great. I got to read that this year.
I really think you would enjoy it. Like, absolutely. And I feel like they did a better job, that Dan Slott did a better job And certainly he had more time to do it. So I'm not just going to completely blame it all on Bendis, because Bendis only did have 12 issues, whereas Dan Slott had like 30 something. So I felt like he did a good job of taking a villain, Doc Ock, and making him a hero. There was a much more complex good bad dynamic, and there was I felt like a lot more interesting take on him trying to do the right thing, but almost always ending up doing it in the wrong way. I just felt like it was a much better version of what a bad guy going good story could look like.
Yeah.
Even though the characters are different. And when I started reading, I'm like, oh, this is just a ripoff of Superior Spider-Man. But as we got more of the stuff from Doom's past and Doom's history and Doom's mom, it felt a lot more personal and a lot more unique. Just the first few issues were a little bit of a slow buildup for me, because I felt like that about comparing the two characters.
I obviously need, since I'm still, I think I've only been reading Marvel hardcore for about 10 years, so I need to read more Bendis. But so far, it seems like his character motivation, is things, they have just the slightest motivation for things, their motivations are tissue thin, it seems like.
Yeah.
For New Avengers, it's like Wanda finds out she doesn't have kids. Boom! New Avengers. Dr. Doom wants to try things a new way. Boom! Infamous Iron Man. So I don't know. I'll have to read some more Bendis.
That's an interesting thought. I've never thought of it that way. I'll have to really think through some of the other Bendis stuff I've read, but I think you're onto something.
I just put it together now. I need to read more Bendis in Marvel, but do you? According to you, I don't.
I give Bendis a lot of crap, but I will say, man, he nails the small beats. Like, he does nail some of the small character discussion, some of the small like moments. Like, there's a few moments. One of them is Maria Hill when she's in charge. There's just like a scene of her talking to her mom on the phone. And she's like, Mom, no, I have to go, Mom. Yeah, it's important. Yeah. No, I can't do that. Like you just get the feel, like you can really imagine yourself trying to talk to your mom or your dad who just doesn't get your job at all, who doesn't understand like how important it is. That was great. There was a great scene in which Ben Grimm and Johnny Storm are talking in a diner about Reed, because fake Reed, Mephisto Reed, comes to Ben, and Ben knows there's something a little off. So he's talking to Johnny about it. And there's like this one off comment where he says like, yeah, I was with Medusa, but I'm not anymore. And Ben's like, oh yeah, the hair. Was it in the drain? And Johnny's like, yeah, the hair was legit everywhere. It was just hair for days, all in the drain. Right, I just thought that was hysterical to me. Like those small beats, and even as small as Doctor Strange first appearing to Doctor Doom on the ship towards the end, and he walks in and Doom is meditating, and then Strange says something like, yeah, I'm getting in the zone. He's like, yeah, I'm getting in the zone. And Doom tries to interrupt. He's like, shh, I'm in the zone. Auto zone. And it was just great. The little auto zone jingle tossed in there. Like small beats like that.
Yeah.
I do give Bendis credit. Like he does nail some of that dialogue. You just really got to read to get to it. Yeah. There's a lot of dialogue around it.
Right.
But he did do a good job on that.
I will say that this, even though we have pointed out the flaws in Infamous Iron Man, this is like the most interesting Iron Man I've read.
Totally agree.
In 10 years, because I read Invincible Iron Man, on my iPad, the follow-up that wraps everything up from this run. And I find Iron Man to be dull. I don't know that there's anything that Iron Man's ever done that I found to be interesting, man. Infamous Iron Man is the most interesting Iron Man, man.
I totally agree. Absolutely. It was And it was interesting. And I'll say this, by the end of it, I really wanted to see, I felt like there was more story to tell. Even though he did like have a beginning, middle, and end, like you were saying, I feel like there was more they could have done with the character. Particularly, Doom goes in great Doctor Doom fashion and just like whoops up all the bad guys who are meeting at like a bar. There's like all these bad guys meeting, and he just dominates them all, but he doesn't kill any of them, which is very interesting. So they all end up in prison, and they're all talking at one point about like, it's open season on Doom. Like when we get out, like he's gone too far, man. It would have been a really interesting story to have like, and maybe they told us later, I don't know, but to have all the villains going after Doom and all the heroes going after Doom. And I don't know, I felt like there was more to do with the character. Cause I mean, even though I didn't love the way it was told and I did have some problems with the story, I love the premise. And I did find the character very interesting. And I do feel like I would have kept reading. Had there been more issues, I definitely would have kept reading.
Yeah, well, maybe you should on Marvel Unlimited read the Invincible Iron Man 593 to 600 because it does. There are a bunch of it's a lot of Iron Man, but
I can just skip that part.
Well, there's an awful lot of Iron Man to read. Actually, there's so much Iron Man. I'm going through it right now, and it is an awful lot of Iron Man. It is not very much Doctor Doom. There's a lot of Riri Williams, which is fine. I like her as a character, but there's not. They do have like open season on. They do sort of have. Let's see. I'm trying to pull up where the criminals go once they even introduce Blade into it.
Ooh, Blade.
Yeah. Blade comes in and visits Riri Williams and I don't know. Yeah. He comes in and visits Riri Williams. He is to recruit her for like a super team. Unfortunately, it's not Magic Avengers, which is what we all really want.
Magic Avengers! This made me want it more than ever. Come on, man.
You know what? There's hardly any Doctor Doom in this now that I think about it.
Yeah, Magic Avengers was something that I started as a joke, but wanted it more than anything in the world, Jess.
Yeah.
Think of how fun that book could be.
Oh, yeah. I always think about it. It'd
be so awesome.
I always think about it.
Doctor Doom, Scarlet Witch, Doctor Strange. There's so many characters we could toss in there that would make it so fun.
Yeah, I don't know there's a couple of parts here that have Doctor Doom in it, but I don't know.
Does it end up like? Does it say what happens to Doctor Doom and his status as Iron Man at the end, or does it?
Yeah, he goes back to Doctor Doom.
Okay.
Behaving as a good Doctor Doom, but Tony Stark reappears.
Okay.
And takes back the Iron Man mantle. The search for Tony Stark is what it's called. So Tony Stark comes back.
Okay.
And Doctor Doom at the end of this book is Doctor Dooming it in a nice way in his Doctor Doom clothes.
Well, I'm interested to know more about the character because that's my biggest gripe with comics in general is when they do something like this, they take a character in a new direction. And then they just revert back. Another writer gets a hold of the character and is like, nah, I don't think so. We're just going to go back to straight villain Doctor Doom. And so for those who've been reading the new Fantastic Four by Dan Slott, I've not been reading that. I really hope they don't just go back to the same old song and dance of Doom, maniacal villain, because I did like the character development, and I hope that they keep it up. There was a stinger at the end of the book that did leave me very intrigued, and there was a plot that they were dangling, which I'm assuming is dealt with in the Iron Man book. The plot was Dr. Doom is having visions of Iron Man behaving like Sorcerer Supreme, Tony Stark behaving like the Sorcerer Supreme from the future or an alternate dimension or something. And he's seen a couple of visions of this in New York, and he's talked to Stark, but that's all we got of that. It's an old man Stark in what looks like a Doctor Strange type situation.
Right. Well, okay, so I think you should read it on.
Okay, I'll have to check that out, because then the end stinger I really thought was interesting, which was Amara.
Right.
And yeah. I mean, obviously the heavy implication there being that it's Dooms, but who knows? So I'm assuming they deal with all of that in the books, and I do want to know more, so I may have to check it out.
Yeah, it's only like eight issues. So,
and I think ultimately one of the things we talked about last time on the show is, as a good metric of do we like it or not, was it compelling? Do you want to read more?
Well, I did.
And you read more, and I want to read more. So I think that means it's worth picking up and reading.
For all our criticism, it made me want to read more. I went on to Comixology, and I don't have a Comixology Unlimited. I just don't use it enough. So I bought the thing, and it made me want to read more and find out how it finished up. So it's compelling. It was, you're right. That's a good metric. You're right.
It definitely made me want to read more, even though I felt like there were some flaws with it. So I think it's a recommendation. For me, I think I would recommend it to anybody who is lightly interested in a different take on Iron Man, or has found Iron Man boring in the past, like both of us. What about you? Who would you recommend it to?
Those exact words. Yeah, this is the most interesting Iron Man I've ever read. So your exact words. I thought it was a really good take on Iron Man. Easily the most interesting Iron Man I've ever read.
Well, I was checking real quick to see if there was a promo on Marvel Unlimited, because they usually do a promo around the time of the movies. And
somebody's been mentioning that.
You can probably hear my new beautiful clicky keyboard. Type away. I love it. But I'm going to check really quick and see if there's a Marvel Unlimited promo going on now, because this would be a great place to read it. If there's not, that would surprise me, but the price, of course, is normally, it's $10 a month. And I'm not seeing a promo off the bat. Maybe somebody could check in the comments, because they generally do have one for the films. But that's a good place to read it. Comixology is a good place to read it.
For every time they release a Marvel movie, they do a promo?
Most of the time, there's a promo code you can put in that gives you Marvel Unlimited for a free for a month or for $1.
Oh, wow. $1.
So it's a great time to jump in. I mean, I think the price is well worth it. But if you of course the price is worth it if you get it for $1. It doesn't look like, though, I am a little bit surprised. It does not look like there's a promo code that I can tell that's up right now. Perhaps there will be one later. Maybe not. I know they did one with the last Spider-Man movie. So we shall see. If somebody finds one, though, drop it in the comments.
Sure.
And if you've read this book, let us know what you thought. I'd be interested to see how other people took this character.
And after this, I think that the choice should be T-Bones. So I'm going to let him pick, since I picked the first two. So
Dragon Ball Z, Shazam!
I don't even know what that is. If it's a candy, or if it's a Pez dispenser, or if it's a movie.
So much, Jess.
Huh?
Why are you hurting me?
I'm so much older than you are. I have no idea that was I don't even know that it was. Wait, I don't even. if it was part of my daughter's generation, she did not clue into it. I don't know.
She was missing out on that sweet Toonami anime block when we were all kids. Maybe that was a little after her time. I don't know.
I think Toonami was. I remember she watched. As far as I remember, cartoons that she liked Hey Arnold, and
hey, Move It, Football Head.
Move It, Football Head. She liked Hey Arnold and stuff like that. She liked Nickelodeon stuff, Cat Dog, Rugrats, things like that. She liked.
Well, she missed out on some sweet Dragon Ball Z. Okay, yeah, I can't find a promo code, but you can read it on Marvel Unlimited. There you go. So next time, I'm thinking we will do a DC Rebirth book.
Okay.
We'll do something from DC. We've done 2 Marvel books. I'm open to all suggestions, be it from you or in the chat. If you loved a DC Rebirth book and you think it's an absolute read, let me know. The criteria being we need 1 to 2 trade paperbacks out from the series, if not a hardcover. And I will say the books that I have read already, and Jess, you tell me if you've read some of these.
Oh, okay.
I've read Superman. I've read Batman, Detective Comics.
What? All of it? You've read all of it?
I mean, I've just read the first few arcs. Sorry, I've read the first few arcs of this, so we could jump in at any point. And Flash.
How about
Nightwing? I've read. Red Hood and the Outlaws. I've read these. I've just read the first few arcs of all of these, maybe the first 2 arcs, but I think that's about it. So
how about Superman? Whatever is in whatever the arcs are in the deluxe of number 2.
I think I've read up through issue 50. I'm not sure.
50?
I think.
Or 15?
50. I think.
Oh, you've read through Superman 50?
I believe so.
Oh, you've read the whole thing then?
40 to 50, somewhere in there.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll have this chat off air.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But let us know. Let me know in the comments if there's a book you think that was not one of those that started issue 1 that was amazing or that you absolutely loved. And if not, then we're gonna pick something beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, good. Well, that wraps up the Dog and Bone Show. Thanks for tuning in, and we appreciate it. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment. We always respond to comments. And peace and love. Peace and love.
Shazam!
And Dragon Ball Z.